Have you ever felt like the more you think deeply about the world, the more isolated you become? Like the more you understand, the less people seem to want to engage with your ideas. It's not just in your head. The truth is, society has always had a strange relationship with deep thinkers. Those who question the status quo or probe beneath the surface often find themselves sidelined, ignored, or even ridiculed. But why is that? If you look back at history, it's full of examples where profound thinkers were pushed to the margins of society. Think of people like Socrates, Galileo, or even more recent figures like Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla. These people were visionaries, not because they were misguided, but because their ideas were too far ahead of their time, too uncomfortable for the masses to accept. They saw the world differently, and that made others uneasy. One philosopher, Schopenhauer, put it bluntly: intelligence is a curse. The more a person understands the nature of reality, the more they begin to see the flaws in society and human nature. That's when isolation sets in. But why does this happen? Why does society seem so resistant to deep thinkers? The answer lies in human nature itself. When you meet someone who is physically strong, you may admire their power or feel motivated by it. If someone is wealthier than you, it may spark envy, but you don't necessarily feel attacked by it. But when you encounter someone who is more intellectually capable, something shifts. Psychologists refer to this as the mirror effect. A deeply intelligent person doesn't just offer new ideas, they reflect back our own limitations, making us uncomfortable. This discomfort triggers a defense mechanism in the brain. When we're faced with someone whose ideas challenge us, instead of embracing their insights, we tend to resist them. But why does intelligence, more than any other form of superiority, provoke such discomfort? The answer is that intelligence isn't just a quality like strength or wealth, it's tied directly to our identity. Most of us define ourselves through our beliefs, our thoughts, and our perceptions of the world. When a deep thinker presents an alternative perspective, it's as if they're questioning not just what we know, but who we are. It challenges our sense of self. It's this very challenge to the ego that often leads to rejection. In fact, history shows that individuals who think too differently, too deeply, or too critically often face resistance not because they are wrong, but because they force society to confront uncomfortable truths. It's not about intellect alone. It's about the discomfort of having to question everything you once accepted as truth. Take a moment and think back to your own experiences. Have you ever tried to explain a deep or complex idea in a casual conversation, only to be met with silence or disinterest? Have you ever noticed how conversations tend to avoid deeper topics, quickly switching to something more comfortable? This isn't accidental, it's a coping mechanism. When confronted with ideas that challenge the status quo, most people retreat to the familiar. They may not reject the thinker directly, but they will avoid engaging with the ideas to keep their mental comfort intact. This dynamic is why intellectuals, philosophers, and thinkers often find themselves in solitude, not because they want to be alone, but because society pushes them into that position. Here's another interesting point. Studies have shown that confidence is often more highly valued than intelligence in social situations. People gravitate toward those who project certainty, even if their ideas are shallow. Meanwhile, someone who speaks with complexity or nuance may find it difficult to break through. We've all seen it. Populist figures and influencers who thrive by simplifying complex issues, offering easy answers to the world's problems. They gain followers not because they speak the truth, but because they tell people what they want to hear. On the other hand, those who present uncomfortable truths or ideas that force people to think critically are often sidelined. This paradox has been true throughout history. The deeper someone seeks the truth, the more likely they are to feel disconnected from the majority. It's the intellectual's dilemma. The more they question, the more they isolate themselves. But is there any scientific evidence to support this idea that people actually fear intelligence? Interestingly, modern neuroscience backs up this theory. Research shows that when people feel intellectually inferior, areas of the brain associated with fear become activated. Essentially, intelligence doesn't just provoke discomfort, it triggers a primal response, much like the feeling we get when faced with physical danger. So, why would our brains react to intelligence the same way they respond to threats? To understand this, we need to look back at human evolution. For most of our evolutionary history, survival wasn't dependent on intellectual prowess. It was about group survival. Humans lived in tribes, and fitting in with the group was essential for survival. A person who didn't conform to the group's beliefs or ideas could become an outcast, and in ancient times, outcasts didn't survive for long. Our brains are wired to prioritize social acceptance, and the more intelligent a person is, the more likely they are to disrupt the harmony of the group by challenging the prevailing norms. This explains why intelligence can feel like a threat. It forces others to confront their own limitations and may even challenge their place within the group. The deeper the thinker, the more they expose what others would rather keep hidden, especially the uncomfortable truths about life, society, and themselves. A recent study from Stanford University offers an even deeper insight. It found that while individuals may be able to interact comfortably with deep thinkers one-on-one in group settings, the presence of a highly intelligent person can trigger anxiety and defensiveness. Why? Because group dynamics place a premium on social status. When someone feels outshined by a deep thinker, the instinctive response is to protect one's social standing by downplaying or even dismissing that person's ideas. This leads to another phenomenon called cognitive dissonance. When people encounter ideas that conflict with their own beliefs, they experience mental discomfort. To relieve this discomfort, they don't always change their views. Instead, they often double down on what they already believe, rejecting the new idea entirely. And in today's digital age, this resistance to intelligence has only intensified. Social media platforms where content is driven by algorithms prioritize content that sparks strong emotions or quick engagement, content that is often simplistic or sensational. Deep thinkers, with their nuanced ideas, struggle to gain traction in a world that values instant, digestible content. Thoughtful, intellectual discussions are buried beneath a flood of quick sound bites and viral trends. So, what does this mean for deep thinkers? The rejection of intellectualism isn't just about social friction. It's built into our biological makeup, our cultural norms, and the very structure of modern media. This doesn't mean deep thinkers should stop challenging the world around them, but they must recognize the resistance they will face. After all, when you seek the truth, you often find that comfort and familiarity are sacrificed in the process. Arthur Schopenhauer, that harshly insightful philosopher, believed that intelligence is less a gift and more a burden. He argued that the more you understand the nature of the world, the more detached you become from society, and the more difficult it is to connect with others. The smarter you are, the more you begin to see the world not as it is, but as it could be, flawed, unjust, and fundamentally chaotic. Schopenhauer's view was simple. People are driven by their desires, by their instinct to seek pleasure, comfort, and survival. But the deep thinker, the true philosopher, is driven by a desire to uncover the truth, no matter how painful or isolating it might be. This creates a chasm between the thinker and the rest of society. Where most people are content with the surface-level distractions of life, deep thinkers are left to grapple with the deeper, often unsettling questions about existence. They see the world as it is, and it's not always a pleasant sight. That's the paradox of intelligence. It can illuminate the truth, but it can also alienate you from everyone else who doesn't see the world in the same way. It's the price that deep thinkers must pay for seeing the world more clearly than those around them.